Radio Philippines Network Incorporated, DXKO. Preso sa Hibay Ukso sa Bayan sa inyong radyo. RPN DXKO, ang radyo Handa, duni sa Batayan sa Cagayan de Oro. Tigahan na may dalaon sa katawan, andam na serbisyo sa tanan. Ang RPN DXKO Radyo Handa, sakop sa KBP, kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas.
Discuss the policies and programs of the administration as it leads the nation forward amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. Today, you will hear stories of pagkalinga as the government heeds the needs of the people and resolves to realize the President's promise of change. Today, we begin the first of the three-part pre-SONA stories with the Economic Development Cluster and the Infrastructure Cluster. This is Tatak ng Pagbabago 2020, patunay na pagkalinga.
Sa pagbubukas ng taong 2020, kinaharap ng Pilipinas ang mga napakabigat na suliranin. Pinakamatindi na rito ang pandemya ng COVID-19 na nagbigay banta sa kalusugan at kaligtasan ng sambayanang Pilipino. Sa harap ng pagsubok, tayo'y nagkapit-bisig at nagbayanihan para sa ikagagaling ng lahat. Sa pangulo ni Pangulong Rodrigo Roa Duterte, puspusan ang paghahatid ng tulong at serbisyo ng pamahalaan sa mga mamamayan sa gitna ng dinaranas na public health emergency. Ang maagap at masikasig na pagtugon sa mga pangangailangan ng taong bayan ay patunay ng pagkalinga at pagmamalasakit ng Administrasyong Duterte sa bawat Pilipino, sa loob at labas man ng bansa. Bilang pagkakita para sa State of the Nation Address ni Pangulong Duterte, muling inihahandog ng Cabinet Clusters ang Tatak ng Pagbabago 2020, the Pre-SONA Forums. Sa pagkakataon nito, haharap sa sambayanan ng 6 na Cabinet Clusters upang ihatid ang mga tamang impormasyon at iulat ang katotohanan tungkol sa kalagayan ng ating bansa. Bitbit ang temang patunay ng pagkalinga. Layunin nitong sugpuin ang paglaganap ng fake news at disinformation. Sa unang bahagi ng Pre-SONA Forums, nariyan ang Economic Development Cluster na nagsusulong sa pambansang hangarin na muling umangat, bumangon at lumago ang ekonomiya sa pagkakalugmok sa sangasangang krisis na idinulot ng COVID-19. Kasama rin ang Infrastructure Cluster na pinapausbong ng infrastruktura sa bawat sulok ng bansa upang mapaunlad at mapabuti ang kalagayan ng mamamayang Pilipino. Sa ikalawang bahagi, nariyan ang Human Development and Poverty Reduction Cluster na nangangalaga sa interes ng mga maralitang Pilipino at umaagapan sa mga pangangailangan ng taong bayan sa usapin ng kalusugan, kabuhayan, edukasyon at iba pang mga serbisyo. Kasama rin ang Participatory Governance Cluster na itinataguyod ng isang transparent, responsive at people-centric na gobyerno para sa mas mabilis at epektibong paghatid ng serbisyo sa mga tao. Sa pangatlo at pinakahuling bahagi naman, nariyan ang Security, Justice and Peace Cluster na prioridad ang pagpapanatili ng kaayusan, seguridad at kapayapaan sa mga komunidad. Kasama rin ang Climate Change Adaptation, Mitigation and Disaster Risk Reduction Cluster na pinapahusay ang kahandaan at katatagan ng mga komunidad laban sa mga kalamidad at sakuna habang pinapaigting ang pagpapatupad ng mga pulisiyang poprotekta sa kalikasan. Sa 4 na taong pagsisikap ng Administrasyong Duterte, na maisulong ang tunay na pagbabago. Marami na tayong nakamit na mga tagumpay. Sinusubok man ng krisis ang ating bansa sa panahon ito, itutuloy natin ang maganda na nating nasimula. Patuloy ang paghahatid ng mapagkalingang serbisyo sa mga mamamayang Pilipino. Sama-sama, iaangat natin ang bansa. Sabay-sabay, haharapin natin ang mas magandang umaga.
From the day of this election up to the present, President Rodrigo Duterte has remained firm in his commitment to bring government closer to the Filipino people. Consistent with this vision, we have organized these pre-SONA events featuring the President's cabinet secretaries to share the accomplishments of their respective clusters over the past year, as well as their plans for the coming period. The presentations include the programs and activities for our whole-of-government response to the COVID-19 pandemic. We are carefully aware that our country and our people will continue to face immense challenges for the rest of the year and beyond until a vaccine becomes widely available. The COVID-19 pandemic will continue to adversely affect people all around the world. President Duterte's priority is clear: to save lives and protect communities. In the early days of this pandemic, this meant the imposition of strong quarantine guidelines to prevent the spread of the virus, while we proceeded to enhance and establish health facilities throughout the country. President Duterte also rolled out the largest economic protection program in our history, giving special attention to small business workers and informal sector families. Even as we speak, the government is spending as much as it can to support our less privileged countrymen. Yan po ang pagkalinga ng inyong pamahalaan. The emergency measures the President adopted to fight this crisis saved thousands of lives. But these life-saving measures had the inevitable result of constraining economic activity, thus affecting livelihoods. Having vastly improved our health system capacity, we are on the road towards reopening our economy. This is evidenced by the less restrictive quarantine classifications now prevailing in most parts of the country. Nonetheless, as we help our citizens return to work, each and every Filipino needs to remain vigilant. We should all continue observing social distancing and other public health measures, such as wearing of masks and frequent washing of hands, to protect each other's health and well-being. We must act responsibly. Sabi nga nila, mapa-ECQ o MGCQ, huwag matigas ang ulo, may virus pa rin. As we transition to the new normal, your government's pagkalinga will take the form of a strong economic rebound. We shall save and restore as many livelihoods as we can. The presentations you will be seeing shortly will provide our people a full picture of what has been done and what plans have been laid out for our nation's economic recovery. The whole of government is working round the clock to minimize the socioeconomic impact of this pandemic and to ensure our sustainable recovery. We have been relentless in mobilizing every resource and seeking every opportunity to attain better days for our nation. We are confident that in spite of the continuation of this health crisis, our economy can resume its growth trajectory and that our economic and infrastructure development will generate jobs for Filipino workers, enabling them to provide a more comfortable life for their families. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you very much for the welcome message, Secretary Medialdea. Now, this year's pre-SONA is different from that of what we had for the past 3 years. Nevertheless, our promise to give you timely and relevant updates on the administration's movements remains the same. As I've mentioned, this is the first of the 3 pre-SONA forums we had scheduled for you, leading to the State of the Nation address of the President on the 27th of July. Today's show is spearheaded by the Economic Development Cluster and the Infrastructure Cluster. Before COVID-19 hit us, the Philippines had one of the fastest growing among the major economies of Asia and the world. But the past few months have been tough for all of us. How then will our economy regain our momentum and recover? With us today is the head of the government's economic team, Secretary Carlos G. Dominguez of the Department of Finance. We'll just fix the audio of Secretary Sunny Dominguez. Apparently, the audio of the Secretary to resume has been muted. But today is going to be a special day. We have several members of the Economic and Infrastructure Cluster that will speak for the entire pre-SONA of this year. We have Secretary Dominguez. We will also have Secretary or Governor Ben Jokno, and then we shall have Secretary Mark Villar speak about all of the infrastructure projects of the Philippine government through the Build. The question today would be, what has, or should be not what the government has done for the past 5 years or 4 years, but probably what will you expect from the government from this time on until the end of the year, since we are in the midst of the pandemic, this crisis that hit our country, hit the rest of the world, and has caused the economy of the Philippines and the rest of the world to stumble. So napakahalaga po ng magiging pre-SONA sa araw na ito dahil may kita natin kung ano ang plano ng ating economic cluster, ano ang plano ng ating infrastructure cluster sa mga darating na buwan. Dahil nga sa tanong na inuulit ko, ano ang para sa akin, ano ini-expect ng bawat Pilipino matapos tumama ang coronavirus sa atin lahat dito po sa Pilipinas at sa buong mundo. And we all know that for the past 4 years, na napakadami na pong nagawa ng administrasyon ni Pangulong Rodrigo Roa Duterte. The promise to bring down the poverty incidence from 23% to the target of 14%. Ito po ay nakamtan in less than 3 years, kung saan ay nakamit natin yung pagbaba ng 23% poverty incidence at ito naman ay bumaba ng 16%. So kung titingnan mo talaga, base dun sa target po ng ating pamahalaan, ay 2% na lamang ay tatama na tayo dun sa 14% na target. But of course, we have this pandemic that struck us. Hindi naman natin inaasahan ito. So the government kailangan ng gumawa ng konting recalibration sa kanyang plano. So the question remains, anong aasahan ng bawat Pilipino? May trabaho pa ba ako bukas? Paano babalik yung trabaho ko? Sa mga negosyante, paano babalik ang aking negosyo? Para sa mga OFWs, ako ba'y makakabalik pa sa abroad para magtrabaho? Ano ang mga opportunities? Paano tayo babalik dun sa bilis ng pag-asenso ng ating ekonomiya sa gitna ng pandemya? At para po bigyan tayo ng sneak peek or preview kung ano ang mga babanggitin ni Pangulong Rodrigo Roa Duterte sa kanyang State of the Nation address in the coming weeks. Nandito po ngayon si Secretary Sani Dominguez, who will be the first to speak on our pre-SONA for 2020. Secretary Dominguez.
Thank you. Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Loud and clear.
Thank you very much. Executive Secretary Salvador Medialdea, Infrastructure Cluster Chairman and Secretary of Public Works and Highways Mark Villar, Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas Governor Benjamin Jokno, Cabinet Secretary Carlo Nograles, members of the Economic Development and Infrastructure Clusters, fellow workers in government, members of the Diplomatic Corps, business and financial communities, academe, civil society, youth organizations, development partners, friends in media, good morning. We live in difficult and uncertain times. In a country whose median age is below 25, the COVID-19 health emergency is perhaps the toughest economic crisis most of our people will live through. This pandemic is a black swan event that no one fully anticipated and was truly prepared to deal with. But we did not fold and run in the face of an unprecedented crisis. We quickly took stock of the situation and responded with everything we had. President Duterte's early and decisive measures to combat the contagion saved thousands of lives. According to the epidemiological models by FASTER project in April and the University of the Philippines COVID-19 Pandemic Response Team as of June 27, government interventions such as the lockdown have prevented as much as 1.3 to 3.5 million infections. Imposing the enhanced community quarantine not only slowed the virus spread, when it could have grown exponentially faster. The lockdown gave us time to expand our testing capacity by multiples. From just around 300 actual tests per day in March, our capacity grew to 18,141 average daily tests at the start of this month. As an indicator for whether a country is doing enough tests, the World Health Organization has set 10% positive rate as the benchmark. The Philippines meets this measure with only 7.4% of tests yielding positive result. We were also able to protect our frontliners and healthcare workers better, from procuring 1 million personnel protective equipment sets by the end of April to 6 million by the end of June. This is a six-fold increase that was accelerated by the special powers under the Bayanihan Law that facilitated emergency procurement and measures by the Bureau of Customs to expedite their release from the piers. We have improved the protection of healthcare workers. For all confirmed cases of COVID-19 at the end of April, 20% were health workers. This dramatically decreased to less than 8% as of July 5. Hopefully, this downtrend will continue as we strengthen infection prevention and control protocols. The lockdown likewise gave us time to expand our capacity to treat and isolate the infected. From around 33,000 beds in our quarantine facilities in mid-April, we were able to bring up isolation and treatment capacity to 68,000 beds as of July 6. 75% of these beds are vacant and available for use today. Only less than 1% of all COVID cases in the country are severe or critical. The rest are mild or asymptomatic cases and will not need intensive hospital care. Despite this, we will sustain our efforts to expand access to testing, hire more contact tracers, and beef up our treatment capacity. For us to overcome this contagion, we must do our part as individuals. We all have a big responsibility to play. In our homes and places of work, as we travel day to day, we must adhere to the minimum health standards. In places we live, shop, and work, we must wear masks, wash our hands frequently, and practice social distancing. We knew that protecting the lives of our people would come at a heavy price. In the first quarter of this year, our economy shrank by 0.2%. This is the first quarterly economic contraction in 2 decades. Our unemployment rate in April of this year spiked to 17.7%. Similarly, the shutdown of economic activities has taken its toll on business. The slowdown in economic activity and extensions of tax filing and payment deadlines combined to bring down our revenues. For the first half of this year, estimated tax collections from the Bureau of Internal Revenue and the Bureau of Customs dipped to 1.2 trillion pesos, 16% behind last year's performance for the same period. Given the economic situation, we expect to collect significantly less taxes than we projected to raise at the start of the year. Our deficit to GDP ratio will likely more than double as tax collections drop, even as the government spends more to beef up our healthcare system and to provide relief to families, workers, and other sectors hardest hit by the pandemic. None of the emergency spending was programmed. In addition, we need to fund our economic recovery plan, especially for small businesses. We will bridge the gap with additional borrowings. In previous years, emergency spending and urgent borrowing might have been very difficult. The Duterte administration's prudent approach to fiscal and economic management made us one of the strongest, most resilient, and credit-worthy economies in the region. Signs of recovery are also emerging. Despite the effects of COVID-19 on the overall trading environment, the Bureau of Customs was able to surpass last month's collection target by 4.4% volume. This signals rising economic activity. Recovery is also seen in the manufacturing sector as the economy reopens. As reported yesterday by the Philippine Statistics Authority in its monthly integrated survey of selected industries, the capacity utilization of factories as a whole increased to 73.4% in May compared to 71.2% in April. In addition, while the year-on-year volume of production index of manufacturing is down by 40.3% in May, this is an improvement over April's 43.6% contraction. The latest result of Purchasing Managers Index also points to an improved manufacturing performance moving forward, as it rose from 40.1 in May to 49.7 in June. Before COVID-19, all indicators showed economic strength. We were among the fastest growing economies in Asia with an average GDP growth of 6.6% from 2016 to 2019. We had managed to bring down our debt to GDP ratio to a historic low of 39.6%. Our revenues were robust after the passage of bold tax reform measures. In 2019, revenues were at 16.1% of GDP, our best performance in 22 years. This provided solid footing for our Build, Build, Build program. Despite the delay in the passing of the budget for 2019, we were able to catch up and accelerate our spending on infrastructure investments to 5.4% of GDP last year, double the average infrastructure spending to GDP for the past 50 years. Inflation also remains stable and under control, averaging 3% from 2016 to 2019. For the month of June this year, the inflation rate further slowed to 2.5%. Also, prices in June have only gone up by less than 1/4% compared to the prices at the start of this year. At the end of 2019, we had achieved the lowest recorded rates of unemployment at 4.5%, underemployment at 13%, and poverty incidence at 16.7%. In other words, without this global economic crisis, we have realized better economic outcomes for our people. Our economy was ready to soar. When the health crisis happened, we had already received a BBB plus credit rating, the highest in our country's history. And even amidst the pandemic, international credit rating agencies have affirmed our sovereign rating and have kept them at investment grade levels. In fact, the Japanese credit rating agency upgraded us from BBB plus to A minus last month. This is a vote of confidence in a sea of credit rating downgrades and negative outlook revisions worldwide. With our sterling credit worthiness, the commercial markets and development partners continue to provide us financing at lower interest rates and longer repayment periods. When the government can access debt at low cost, so will our private sector enterprises in need of liquidity assistance. That is so important in recovering from the ravages of the painful but necessary lockdown. The ability to finance at lower cost will help us bounce back more quickly and more sustainably. This is what makes the credit rating so crucial to restoring our economy's health. Today, the Department of Finance has raised a total of $5.3 billion in concessional budgetary support from our development partners. On top of this, the Philippines secured a total of $126 million in grant and loan financing from our development partners for various COVID-specific projects. This includes purchase of emergency medical supplies and equipment, as well as food distribution program for the poorest households in Metro Manila. In the commercial market, we raised $2.35 billion from our latest global bond offering that fetched the lowest ever coupon in the US dollar market. All these are a clear vote of confidence in our future recovery and a favorable appraisal of where our prospects stand compared to the rest of the world. In terms of domestic sources, we have raised 1.2 trillion pesos in gross domestic borrowings from the beginning of the year to support our budget. As part of this, the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas entered into a repurchase agreement with the national government amounting to 300 billion pesos to help us fund our COVID-19 initiatives. Moreover, we have received a total of 149 billion pesos in remittances from government-owned or controlled corporations since the start of the year. The Department of Budget and Management has thus far released allotments totaling 375 billion pesos for the government's COVID-19 response program. While the people's health and safety remain a priority, we cannot keep on retreating from the virus at the cost of our livelihoods. Metro Manila and Calabarzon account for 67% of the country's economy. It is vital that these regions reopen. The reality is that this virus will not go away until a vaccine is found. In the meantime, we must get back to work while staying safe. We need to strike a reasonable balance between safeguarding public health and restarting our economy. Health and livelihood is not a binary choice. We must protect lives in ways that do not prevent us from earning a living. This is a tough decision to make, but we need to do this. Revving up the economy essentially means raising consumer and investor confidence, which requires some functional level of interaction among groups and individuals. We are asking all Filipinos to cultivate in themselves a renewed sense of confidence through continued vigilance, not out of fear, but with the knowledge that most factors of viral transmission are under our personal control. Pragmatism guides us as we put together an effective recovery program that we can afford and fully execute. Components of this plan are already being rolled out. In addition to the 205 billion peso emergency cash grant and 51 billion peso small business wage subsidy designed for immediate relief measures, the government is implementing other initiatives to help struggling families and businesses. The public can avail of several credit facilities and services extended by government financial institutions. Members of the Social Security system can now borrow calamity assistance loans for COVID-19. Since its online filing was launched on June 15, SSS has approved a total of 479,000 applications amounting to 7.5 billion pesos. Today, it has released 1.7 billion pesos to 102,500 borrowers. Those laid off workers, when the economy froze, can seek unemployment insurance benefits equivalent to half their average monthly salary credit for 2 months. The SSS launched this program in August of 2019. Since the start of the lockdown, it has already approved 6,300 applications totaling 84.4 million pesos. To date, SSS has released 76.2 million worth of benefits to 5,740 applicants. The government service insurance system will also help members cope with the changes brought about by the pandemic. Next month, GSIS will introduce a new 30,000 peso computer loan program to its active members to help them purchase a laptop or desktop in light of the new normal of holding distance or online school classes at the 6% per annum interest rate. In addition, the SSS will launch in September an educational loan program for its members to help pay tuition and other school fees for their nominated student beneficiaries. The maximum loan amount that can be taken out by a borrower for a given academic school year is 100,000 pesos. This will be payable after 5 years from the initial loan taken out. Private educational institutions can also seek help from the Land Bank of the Philippines Study Now, Pay Later lending program. Since the program's launch 2 months ago, over 80 educational institutions nationwide have expressed interest in accessing this credit facility. As of July 1, the bank has approved loan applications totaling 260 million pesos. The Philippine Guarantee Corporation, meanwhile, approved a credit guarantee program amounting to a total of 120 billion peso worth of loans for private banks for them to be able to extend financial assistance to small business owners during this crisis. Today, the corporation has already accredited 22 banks for a total facility of 37.5 billion pesos. Businesses are expected to start availing of the program by the end of July once the banks completed their legal review of the guarantee agreements. The Department of Labor and Employment, for its part, has extended financial aid totaling 6.4 billion pesos to over 1.18 million displaced employees in the formal and informal sectors of the economy, including our returning overseas Filipino workers. The Technical Education and Skills Development Authority, or TESDA, launched an online training program for displaced workers to upskill them. Since the start of the lockdown, 722,000 individuals availed of this program. The government is working hard to provide job opportunities and eventually absorb our laid-off workers into the economy in the shortest possible time. Similarly, the Department of Tourism has been implementing online learning series workshops since April as part of its retooling program for the industry stakeholders. To date, 23 webinars have been conducted for about 7,200 participants. This agency is also working on its tourism response and recovery program focused on the protection of tourism workers, promotion of domestic destinations, and development of institutional measures in support of the new normal, among others. Meanwhile, the Department of Agriculture rolled out cash subsidies to over 1 million affected farmers and fisherfolk, amounting to 6 billion pesos or around 5,000 pesos each. Farmers and micro and small agricultural enterprises can also tap the Survival and Recovery Aid Program of the Agricultural Credit Policy Council for additional financial assistance. Micro and small enterprises can also avail of the Department of Trade and Industry and the Small Business Corporation's 1 billion peso COVID-19 assistance to Restart Enterprises Loans Program. The loan amount that businesses can avail of ranges from 10,000 pesos to 500,000 pesos at zero interest rate, payable in either 18 or 30 months. Since the program's launch in April, the agencies have approved 2,000 applications with total loans amounting to 152.4 billion pesos. To date, a total of 14.2 million pesos in loans has been released to 183 borrowers. We have also embarked on a series of priority actions to revive the economy while protecting our citizens. This includes restarting and accelerating the Build program, subject, of course, to compliance with health and safety protocols. We are helping businesses equip themselves to operate in the new normal. The Department of Science and Technology is offering its Small Enterprise Technology Upgrading Program, where businesses can access trainings to help them transition to online and contactless operation. The Department of Information and Communications Technology, for its part, is providing online resources for businesses and workers under a work-from-home program. To ensure that enterprises, even in the remote communities, are able to adapt to a new normal, the Department of Energy will be pursuing its total electrification program. This will be supported by the 2.46 billion peso Access to Sustainability Energy Program grant from the European Union. The program aims to provide access to basic electricity and energy services to hundreds of thousands of households nationwide with a focus on Mindanao. We have thrown a wide safety net for our people and our economy. This government will support you as you protect yourselves, your families, your colleagues, and your workers from this invisible menace. President Duterte's 8888 government complaints hotline is active. Do not hesitate to use this to complain or make suggestions. We are all in this together. We also ask you to bear in mind that while health measures are absolutely necessary for us to fight this pandemic, increasing economic activity in a responsible manner is a matter of national survival and priority. We encourage you to keep on innovating wherever possible and efficient. Shift activity to digital spaces, as many businesses have already done. Again, feel free to bring to our attention government services that you need digitalized. We must keep making progress on this front. To be eligible for benefits to duly registered enterprises, you have to, of course, register with the Bureau of Internal Revenue, the Department of Trade and Industry, and your local governments. These agencies are working to make filings and payments digitally enabled. Bear in mind, too, that you can directly contribute to our COVID-19 war chest, apart from paying the right taxes on time. You can invest in government securities. Investing in government securities is not only safe, but is very helpful to economic recovery. The executive branch is doing its utmost to help the economy recover at the earliest possible time. But for other vital measures to boost economic activity and fortify key sectors, we need Congress's action. We are working on 4 legislative imperatives to help the economy recover quickly in a sustainable and resilient manner. These measures will make more support available for businesses, workers, and families, and will come online as soon as Congress is able to pass them. Elements of this recovery plan are informed by results of extensive nationwide surveys as well as continuous engagement with thousands of stakeholders through our Sulong Pilipinas workshops with youth and business leaders. We certainly hope that our honorable legislators will give due priority to enacting them in a timely manner and in a form that is fiscally responsible. First, we are seeking congressional approval to infusing additional capital to our government financial institutions for them to be able to act as wholesale banks and fund substantial portions of loans that other commercial banks will provide to micro, small, and medium enterprises adversely affected by the pandemic. These private banks will then be able to lend even more money to businesses in need of liquidity. Second, we seek to allow banks to dispose of their non-performing loans and assets through asset management companies similar to the special purpose vehicles that were established in the early 2000s. Third, we are still waiting for the Senate to pass the CREATE Bill, or the Corporate Recovery and Tax Incentives for Enterprises Act, that will reduce corporate income taxes for the majority of small and medium-sized businesses by 5 percentage points immediately. This will help enterprises retain employees, invest more money, and meet their operating costs. The CREATE Bill will also modernize our incentive system and allow us to tailor-fit fiscal and non-fiscal incentives to the investors we want to invite here. Finally, we seek to provide greater support to the agricultural sector by giving the banking system the ability to support the whole value chain of agricultural enterprises. As we enter 2021, we are going to plan for a healthier and more resilient Philippines while making sure that all the proposed policies are aligned with this new normal. We are maintaining our Build, Build, Build program. Infrastructure projects will be the best way to revive the economy because of their high multiplier effect, stimulating demand and generating new jobs and businesses. More projects are also being identified in the areas of health, education, housing, and water and sanitation. We maintained our commitment to bold fiscal and economic reform measures, such as the remaining packages of the Comprehensive Tax Reform Program. The economic team also supports complementary bills that will open up our country to more foreign direct investments, such as amendments to the Foreign Investments Act, the Retail Trade Liberalization Act, and the Public Service Act. We will never take the threat posed by the pandemic lightly. Be assured that the Duterte administration will protect our economic gains, support our recovery, strengthen our resilience, and bring us back to the path of inclusive and shared prosperity. This crisis will not diminish our willingness to exercise decisive leadership. By working together, we will beat this pandemic and come out even stronger than ever. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Secretary Sani Dominguez. To discuss developments in the monetary, external, and financial sectors, we also have Governor Benjamin Jokno of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas.
Esteemed Cabinet Secretaries, fellow workers in government, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. We are currently in the midst of a crisis that is unlike any that we have previously experienced. Yet, the Philippines entered the global pandemic with strong macroeconomic fundamentals compared to its regional peers. The robust growth, good fiscal performance, and strong external and financial sector positions provided the country with relative stability amid the COVID-19 pandemic. Allow me to share with you this morning the accomplishments as well as the latest developments in the country's monetary, fiscal, and external sectors. I will also discuss some of the recent BSP policies and initiatives that we implemented, including measures to help the Philippine economy during these trying times. In 2018, monetary and non-monetary measures were implemented to curb rising inflation due mostly to supply-side shocks. Consequently, inflation declined and settled at an average rate of 2.5% in 2019, down from 5.2% in 2018. In the first 6 months of 2020, inflation averaged at 2.5%, which is within the national government's target of 2 to 4% for this year. The latest BSP baseline forecast indicate that inflation will settle at 2.3%, which is at the lower end of the national government's target range of 2 to 4% for 2020 and 2021. The stability of the Philippine banking system is another source of strength for the domestic economy. As of end December 2019, universal and commercial banks posted a capital adequacy ratio of 15.4% on solo basis and 16% on consolidated basis, much better than the BSP's threshold of 10% and the Bank for International Settlements threshold of 8%. The industry also has low exposure to bad debts, with a non-performing loan ratio at a mere 1.9% as of end April 2020. Meanwhile, the non-performing assets ratio of universal and commercial banks is at 1.6% as of end April 2020. Another source of strength for the economy is our robust external payments position, which provides adequate buffers against global risk and shocks. The country's balance of payments position recorded a surplus of 7.8 billion in 2019, a turnaround from the US 2.3 billion deficit registered in 2018. For the first 5 months of 2020, the BOP positions posted a surplus of $4.0 billion.
The peso has been broadly stable, supported by the Philippines' strong external payments position. While most regional currencies have depreciated against the US dollar, the peso has appreciated. As a consequence of the Asian financial crisis, the Philippines accumulated foreign reserves as a self-insurance against a currency crisis. As of end May 2020, the country's gross international reserves, or GIR, stood at an all-time high of $93.3 billion US dollars, the highest ever in Philippine history. This is enough to cover 8 months worth of imports of goods and payments for services and primary income. The country's favorable external debt profile likewise supports the external payments position. As of end March 2020, the Philippines' external debt stock stood at $81.4 billion, lower by $2.2 billion than its recorded level in end December 2019. It is worth noting that the Philippines' external debt to GDP ratio has declined from 59.7 in 2005 to 22.2% in 2019, and further to 21.4% as of end March 2020. Our debt to GDP ratio remains one of the lowest among ASEAN member countries. Over the years, BSP has implemented many measures to support economic growth. And let me now cite some of those measures. The BSP continuously adjusts its foreign exchange regulations to keep the country's foreign exchange regulatory framework attuned with prevailing market conditions and responsive to the needs of an expanding and dynamic economy. As such, the BSP has implemented 11 waves of foreign exchange reforms since 2007, and one of the pillars of central banking is the safe and efficient payments and settlement system. On 9 December 2015, the BSP launched the National Retail Payment System, a policy and regulatory framework for the carrying out of retail payment activities through the BSP supervised financial institutions. Through the NRPS, the BSP endeavors to create a safe, reliable, affordable, interoperable, and efficient retail payment systems in the country. Under the NRPS, BSP encourages the use of electronic payments to enhance the speed, convenience, and affordability of financial transactions. As of 31 May 2020, PesoNet has 58 participating institutions, while InstaPay has 45. And the number of participating institutions for both are expected to further increase in the coming years. Our experience with COVID-19 highlighted the increasing importance of digital transactions. It was observed that the volume and value of the combined transactions of the PesoNet and InstaPay during the lockdown surged, while the volume and value of check payments and ATM withdrawals declined. The volume of InstaPay transactions from April to May grew 57%, while the volume of PesoNet surged significantly by 325%. The BSP is also encouraging the wide adoption of the national QR code standard, as well as the use of online payment facilities for all government transactions. The launching of eGovPay facility to digitize government collections and disbursements will lead to more efficient government collection, better audit, enhanced transparency, and eventually plug revenue leaks. The use of QR codes for payments has also been gaining traction as an alternative to the traditional debit, and credit card payments. It is quicker, easier, and safer means of payment through code scan using a smartphone rather than having to bring a credit card. The BSP continues to play a supportive role in the promotion of inclusive economic and social development objectives of the government through its advocacy programs aimed at promoting financial inclusion. So in 2019, there were 154 banks with microfinance operations serving more than 2.4 million micro-entrepreneurs. The total value of microfinance loans extended as of end 2019 amounted to 27.3 billion, 20.7% higher than its level in 2018 at 22.6 billion. The Credit Surety Fund, or CSF program, is a credit enhancing scheme that allows micro, small, and medium enterprises, which are members of cooperatives, to borrow from banks using the CSF surety cover as security for the loan in lieu of conventional collateral. From its inception in 2008 until end 2019, a total of 55 credit surety funds located in 34 provinces and 21 cities have been established nationwide. Correspondingly, cumulative approved loans for 17,424 MSME beneficiaries reached 5.7 billion pesos. The Economic and Financial Learning Program of the BSP, on the other hand, aims to help the public acquire the knowledge and develop the skills needed to make well-informed economic and financial choices and decisions. In 2000, the BSP has conducted a total of 638 public information campaigns and other economic information learning sessions that were attended by a total of 43,943 participants from different sectors of society and from all the regions of the country. In 2019, several landmark legislations have been passed to further strengthen the BSP's capacity to perform its mandates. These include the following: the new Central Bank Act. This is a culmination of more than 20 years of legislative work to amend the BSP Charter. It embodies a package of reforms that further align BSP operations with its practices that improve its corporate viability and enhance its capacity for crafting proactive policies to further foster price and financial stability. Next is Republic Act number 11256, which exempts from excise and income tax the sale to BSP of gold sourced from small-scale mining activities. This measure has helped BSP increase its purchase of gold from small miners, which in turn help strengthen our international reserves. Third is the Islamic banking law, which mandates the BSP to exercise regulatory powers and supervision over the operations of Islamic banks and to issue the implementing rules and regulations on Islamic banking. This law is expected to help harness the potential of Islamic banking in fostering inclusive growth, particularly in areas with large Muslim communities. Amid the sustained uncertainties brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic, the BSP promptly implemented measures to complement the national government's broad health and fiscal programs in mitigating its impact. The BSP's liquidity-enhancing measures are intended to reassure markets, restore business confidence, and ensure quick recovery once the community quarantines are lifted. Besides the cumulative 175 basis points reduction in the policy rate and a 200 basis points reduction in the reserve requirement, among others, the BSP also implemented other extraordinary liquidity measures to complement the national government's effort to mitigate the impact of COVID-19, including the repurchase agreement with the national government, the purchase of government securities in the secondary market, as well as the remittance of advanced dividends to the national government. The estimated liquidity injection to the financial system is about 1.3 trillion pesos, which is equivalent to 6.4% of the country's GDP. The implementation of these measures has helped ensure ample liquidity as well as the proper functioning of the financial system during the lockdown. Additionally, the BSP approved a package of measures to further reduce the financial burden on loans to micro, small, and medium enterprises, or MSMEs. In particular, loans granted to MSMEs and large enterprises are not part of conglomerate structures shall be counted as part of the bank's compliance with the reserve requirements. There has been positive response on the part of the banks with respect to this relief measure, especially on the use of loans to MSME as alternative compliance with the reserve requirements. Around 88 banks, mostly rural banks, have started using loans to MSMEs as an alternative mode of compliance with the reserve requirement. Latest data show that around 44.2 billion in MSME loans were used as compliance with the reserve requirement. The BSP also notes that banks continue to grant new loans to the MSME sector during the lockdown. Banks have also been actively extending financial relief to their customers through loan renewals and restructuring arrangements. These measures complement earlier monetary actions taken by the BSP to shore up market confidence and cushion domestic economic activity, along with various time-bound relaxation of various regulations, for example, calculation of penalties on required reserves, and single borrower's limits, among others. Now, to mitigate concerns over the potential non-payment or delinquent payment of loans coming from both business and household sector, and to ensure stability of the financial system, the BSP deployed a range of regulatory relief measures to encourage BSP-supervised financial institutions to grant a temporary grace period for loan payments or to restructure the loan accounts of their borrowers, supporting the operations and lending activities of banks. To encourage BSP-supervised institutions to offer safe, efficient, and reliable digital channels, the Monetary Board in April 2020 approved the waiving of fees related to the provision of electronic payments and financial services. The BSP has implemented measures to ease operational requirements on banks to ensure continued delivery of financial services. The BSP reiterates its commitment to use its entire arsenal of policy tools and instruments in a timely and prudent manner to help cushion the economy from the potential fallout. The relatively benign inflation outlook in the policy horizon provides space for monetary policy adjustments to complement the national government's efforts in mitigating the adverse impact of the public health crisis. The pandemic highlighted the need to expand the reach of digital payments. Efficiency in retail payments is really about speed, convenience, and affordability, which can clearly be supported by a shift to electronic payments. Thus, a key outcome of the national retail payment system is to increase the adoption of electronic retail payments to 50% by 2023, if not sooner. The BSP envisions an accelerated uptake on e-payment services through digital payments like the InstaPay and PesoNet in the next 3 years. We have gained significant strides in this direction through the adoption of the national QR code standard, as well as the use of online payment facilities for government transactions. On the legislative front, the BSP will push for the passage of the following bills: Amendment to Republic Act Number 1405 and 6426, the laws pertaining to the secrecy of bank deposits. Amendment to Republic Act Number 9510, or the Credit Information System Act. The amendment to the Republic Act Number 10,000, or the Agri-Agra Law, and the Financial Consumer Protection Bill. In addition to these legislative priorities, the BSP, together with the national government, are actively pushing for the passage of the following bills: the Financial Institutions Strategic Transfer, the Government Financial Institutions Unified Initiatives to Distress Enterprises for Economic Recovery, or GUIDE, and the Bayanihan 2, or to Recover as One Act. In conclusion, allow me to highlight the important points made in this presentation. First, the Philippines entered into the global pandemic from a position of strength. Thus, the country's sound fundamentals will lend support to our response to the public health pandemic and propel the economy into a strong recovery in the coming years. Next year, we expect GDP to bounce back between 8 to 9%. Our financial and economic resilience has been recognized and affirmed by several external organizations. The most recent was the Japan Credit Rating Agency's upgrade of our credit rating to A- from BBB+ in June 2020. S&P and Fitch, on the other hand, have affirmed the rating of BBB+ and BBB respectively. The prestigious publication, The Economist, also acknowledged the Philippines' relatively strong financial strengths based on 4 metrics, namely public debt, foreign debt, cost of borrowing, and reserve cover. It assessed the Philippines as the 6th best among 66 emerging economies and number 1 among its Southeast Asian neighbors. This slide shows the rating actions of 3 global credit rating agencies, Fitch, Moody's, and S&P. As of 30 June 2020, 39 countries have been downgraded, while there have been 101 negative outlook revisions. Seen in this slide, the Japan Credit Rating Agency's upgrade of the Philippines credit rating to A- from BBB+ should be appreciated as a resounding vote of confidence for the Philippines. Second, amid the sustained uncertainty brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic, the BSP implemented policy measures intended to reassure markets, restore business confidence, and ensure quick recovery once the lockdowns are lifted. The decision to unwind COVID-19 policy responses must be done in a gradual, prudent, and informed manner. Third, the BSP remains committed, together with the national government, in implementing the necessary policy measures and reforms needed to help the Philippine economy recover from the COVID-19 crisis and to build its resilience against future crises. Thank you and a pleasant morning to all.
Sir Ben Ilocos, you are still watching the BRISONA 2020. Thank you very much to our Economic Development Cluster. On to the second cluster we have this morning, the Infrastructure Cluster, the lead in the implementation of the Build, Build, Build program of the administration. Amidst an era of risks and uncertainties, is the country's infrastructure ready to bear the burden of today and overcome the challenges of tomorrow? To provide updates on the government's infrastructure development projects, we have Secretary Mark Villar of the Department of Public Works and Highways.
Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. It is with honor and humility that I have this opportunity to speak with you today on behalf of the Cabinet's Infrastructure Cluster. Last year, in the same forum, I joined you in sharing and celebrating many milestones and accomplishments of infrastructure reforms and progress. Those that were seen and felt by our people as evidence of patuloy na pagunlad or sustained economic growth. And there we parted with a message of hope and promise to expect more improvements to come and unfold in subsequent years. Midway into the Duterte administration, we have expected formidable challenges to come to our path, and we have had to hurdle many storms as we move to transform the country's infrastructure sector. Through our firm and collective efforts, we started off 2020 optimistically, knowing that we have surpassed these challenges and that we have made good progress. We have exceeded our infrastructure investment spending goal to reach more than 5% of GDP. Founded on a robust pipeline of projects under the Build, Build, Build program and guided by strategic sectoral master plans and roadmaps. I would like to share with you some of the important things that we have accomplished and what we can expect moving into the Recovery and Resiliency program. The government recognizes the role of Internet as a key enabler of economic growth and competitiveness of nations that can contribute to the social and cultural development. To operationalize this mandate, the Department of Information and Communications Technology has set the Digital Philippines Strategy, which aims to accelerate the digital transformation of governance, education, workforce, and communities across the country with a whole of government and whole of society approach. The Digital Connectivity Program, which includes the National Broadband Program and the free Wi-Fi in public places, will build and enhance our existing digital infrastructure. To date, the National Broadband Program has successfully tested the 158 dark fiber segments and lighted 124 nodes of the National Grid Corporation of the Philippines for the National Fiber Optic Cable Backbone Component. Further, the construction of the cable landing station at Baler, Aurora, and Poro Point, La Union has been completed. It is envisioned that the 250-kilometer terrestrial road work from Aurora to La Union will be completed by the end of July 2020, and the installation of vital ICT equipment shall be completed by October of 2020. Once completed, the Philippine government is expected to access the 2 terabyte capacity of broadband internet by 2021. The free Wi-Fi for all in public places and SUC's projects covers the installation of free internet access in public places and state universities and colleges. To date, a total of 4,031 live sites have been installed, while an additional 63,202 sites will be connected by the end of 2022. The digital education shall transform Filipino teachers and learners through the use of ICT in teaching, learning, and education leadership. And the digital workforce shall provide more access to develop ICT skills of the Filipino people. To achieve these goals on digital education and workforce, the DICT shall strengthen the ICT Academy, which shall lead in the development of policies, standards, curricula, and guidelines on capacity development initiatives for ICT literacy and competency nationwide. The Digital Transformation Center shall serve as physical venues where the courses designed by the ICT Academy can be accessed. In addition, this year, the DICT shall launch the Skills Window PH, which is an integrated social community learning management, and job sourcing platform that will make both skills and jobs accessible to all the Filipinos nationwide. In effect, the general public may acquire job-ready skills through the certification programs made accessible through the Skills Window EH. The Basic Education Facilities Program aims to address the physical facilities requirements of all public elementary and secondary schools nationwide, and to provide conducive learning environment through safe, secure, and sustainable school infrastructures. As of May of 2020, a total of 137,098 classrooms were constructed in various schools nationwide. Also, 1,906 school workshop buildings and other school facilities were constructed, rehabilitated, and improved. The DepEd Learning Continuity Plan has 4 modalities which can be adopted to ensure that learning will continue in spite of restrictions for face-to-face classes in the upcoming school year. Teachers are being trained in blended learning methodologies to enable them to make sure that learners will adopt the appropriate modality to their situation. To support the LCP, 271,538 ICT equipments have been delivered to schools as of May of 2020. Another set of 119,850 ICT equipment have been procured and will be delivered before the end of the year. Another set of 36,676 ICT equipment is currently being procured, and that will increase the number of schools with ICT equipment from 93% to 98.7%. These are in addition to the 1,042,575 computer devices that have already been distributed across 44,155 public schools under the DepEd computerization program. Parallel to these efforts to connect schools and to connect schools to the internet, jointly undertaken by the DepEd and the Department of Information and Communications Technology, procurement is currently ongoing to connect 7,000 schools that will increase the number of connected schools from 48% to 63%. Production of TV and radio-based lectures are also ongoing that will allow the department to reach learners who have no access to computers or the internet. DepEd is also ensuring the learning continuity, providing immediate response and support to schools. School facilities are being constructed and repaired to ensure proper lighting and ventilation inside the classrooms. Also, health-related infrastructures and other interventions are also being prioritized. 20,359 school clinics will be constructed, including the repair of 13,573 existing clinics. 156,850 group hand washing facilities will be constructed, including the repair of 98,963 existing ones. Provision of potable water source to 3,861 schools will be prioritized. Construction of 56,796 toilet facilities will also be prioritized. One of the mitigating measures in disaster risk reduction is the construction of evacuation centers under the Evacuation Center Development Program. From 2016 to 2019, a total of 7.2 billion pesos was allocated for the construction of about 197 evacuation centers nationwide. As of June of 2020, 129 evacuation centers were completed and 68 are currently with ongoing construction. The government aims to build at least one evacuation center per province to minimize disturbance to school buildings being used as evacuation centers post-disaster. Out of the 81 provinces, 65 provinces have at least one completed evacuation center. Primarily built as a measure for disaster risk reduction, the Evacuation Center Development Program provided helpful during the Taal volcano eruption in January of 2020, and more recently for the outbreak of COVID-19 throughout the country. 63 evacuation centers were utilized as health quarantine facilities capable of providing health monitoring and treatment to about 2,292 individuals. As of June 2020, a total of 1,686 persons were accommodated in these facilities. The Center and Residential Care Facilities Infrastructure Project of the Department of Social Welfare and Development aims to give exemplary care and welfare services to marginalized and disadvantaged individuals, groups and families including abandoned and neglected children, children in conflict with the law, street children, children with special needs, abused and trafficked girls and women, abandoned and unattached older persons, persons with disabilities, and deportees. In 2018, 1.4 billion was allotted for 210 projects in 71 dilapidated and congested facilities and in 4 new centers. As of June of 2020, 87% of 182 projects are already completed. Additional 114 million pesos was allotted in 2020 for 32 projects. Maintaining peace and security both from inside and outside forces has been crucial for the country over the years. Through the tatag na infrastruktura para sa kapayapaan at seguridad, or TICAS, the construction of various infrastructure projects that will help the facility readiness of the military and police forces is given priority to ensure an environment of peace and security towards national development. From 2019 to 2020, a total of 7.1 billion pesos has been allocated for 297 TICAS projects, one of which is this construction of a 5-story multi-purpose building in Camp Aguinaldo, which is near completion. The Tourism Road Infrastructure Project, or TRIP, is a highly successful and long-running convergence program with the Department of Tourism and the Department of Public Works and Highways that realizes tourism infrastructure development mandated by the Tourism Act of 2009. To date, a total of 104.5 billion pesos has been allocated for projects from 2016 to 2020, developing about 3,667 kilometers of access roads. These projects are aimed at enhancing connectivity from gateways to service centers and tourism sites. As of May of 2020, 1,950 kilometers of tourism roads have been completed. The role of infrastructure is vital in sustaining tourist development. In our Boracay Rehabilitation Program, for instance, the government is currently providing a safe and efficient road network throughout the island. Support infrastructure like pedestrian infrastructure, such as bike lanes, drainage, and enhancements, such as lampposts and landscaping, are being rolled out towards a more rewarding experience for both locals and tourists. The government remains committed to promote inclusive growth and sustainable tourism by providing road access to community-based tourism sites. The ongoing improvement of access road leading to Kapartan Falls in Pineg, Abra will further boost the promotion of the falls as a new community-based tourism site in the Cordilleras. This effort of the government will eventually spur economic activities, increase investments, and provide livelihood to the community. Also, roads leading to the DOT-accredited tourism sites is a priority under the TRIP, as farm tourism aims to provide new revenue streams for farming communities as it advocates sustainable agricultural practices for recreational and educational purposes. The importance of educating and continuing to inspire our children to maintain a strong interest in agriculture and healthy living is a key to the better future for agriculture and to the welfare of the next generations to come. The Maruaya to Pita Calambeg Estancia Road in Ilocos Norte is being improved to support the Pidic Food Factory School and Agritourism Farm, which currently provides training and sustainable agriculture. Also being improved is the access road leading to Villa Consuelo Agri and Tourism Farms and Silawa Falls in Haro, Leyte. With the help of resilient members of the community, the farm was able to recover after Typhoon Yolanda to become a tourism destination and a supplier community for high-value organic vegetables. The improvement of access roads leading to Lao Integrated Farms in Davao del Sur will further attract visitors and farmers from all over the Philippines to experience and study organic farming systems and technologies. Road networks are being built to improve our service to our farmers in the countryside and to ensure food security. A total of 38.6 billion pesos was released from 2016 to 2020 for the construction and improvement of 3,859 kilometers of farm-to-market roads identified by the Department of Agriculture. As of May of 2020, 1,540 kilometers of farm-to-market roads were constructed and improved. On the other hand, a total of 2.4 billion was released from 2016 to 2019 for the construction improvement of 150 kilometers of farm-to-mill roads identified by the Sugar Regulatory Administration. As of May of 2020, 41 kilometers of farm-to-mill roads were constructed and improved. The Department of Trade and Industries also partnered with the DPWH to implement the Roll-It program, which aims to enhance road connectivity and that links industry and trade development in priority economic and manufacturing zones in the country.
Ang mata mo ay bintana sa atong lawas at timan na kini sama sa pag-atiman nato sa atong ipon, panit, buhok, uguban pa. Ang Health Code International nga nakabase sa Amerika mipadayag sa tiunay nga suporta alang sa lawas ng pagpakabana ilabi na sa atong mata ang tumang exposure